Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and this video is very important. Well, in a way why that is because why it is because as some of you may already know, not all of you would have known of this, but some of you may have known this time last year I suffered a very, very bad fall. That fall was slipping over one of my slippers. Slipping over to the point where I fractured my fifth metatarsal in my left foot, which is serious. And I ended up facing all of the afternoon in hospitalization at A&E in Brighton, which was really, really not fun at all. And also I couldn't walk for a few days until my foot got better. I mean, my foot, following the fall and following the long ordeal, actually got a lot better than I actually imagined. I thought it was going to take several weeks for me to even start walking again. How it happened was that I'm really, really sorry everybody. How it all happened was that on the very, very night of the 6th of October 2020, I was going to go to the toilet before going to bed, but when I was on my way, I slipped over my slipper and then fell right onto the floor, and my foot hit the floor quite hard. I got back up again, and my foot was just in agonizing pain. And because the foot was so painful, if I put my foot to the ground, and it was just so painful, I was limping to the toilet, sat down on the toilet seat, peed, well, did what I needed to do on the toilet as oneself would generally do, and then I was limping back to the bedroom and fell asleep, spending all of the night with a broken foot. And then the next morning, before you know it, I went into hospital. I was given a lift to the hospital, thankfully, but I was not allowed any visitors to see if I was alright, as lots of people, as you know, who go to hospital, they generally like company, especially if it's A&E. But no one I was not able to have any company or anyone to see if I was alright, as a lot of people generally have. It's not just, I mean, anyone would want it in A&E if they've had a serious accident, but we were not able to. I certainly could not have near anyone who was in the A&E, obviously because of COVID. I mean, we were in the very worst period of it at that point, and we had no vaccinations against COVID back then. I was many, many months yet to be vaccinated against COVID at that point. And so I was sat in a A&E hospital waiting room, socially distant from others, and had to wait a very, very long time before I could even get my foot checked. And because I could hardly walk very far, or walk anywhere, I was wheelchaired throughout the hospital. I was just wheelchaired everywhere I went. I mean, it was not fun, and I really did not like being wheelchaired wherever I went. It was really not fun at all, and not being able to walk where I wanted to walk. And when I was found out about my diagnosis at that point, when the doctor said that I'd fractured my fifth metatarsal in my left foot, it left me in disarray, and I was deeply shocked. And plus I was not very happy, as he said it could take apparently he said it could take as long as, at the time, as long as 8 weeks for my foot to even get better, and several weeks before I could even start walking again. But the doctor who examined me turned out to be wrong. because I actually started walking again within about 4 days after I had the fall. So I spent quite a few days just laying there in bed, unable to walk anywhere and do anything. And and it was very frustrating. I mean, because I had to keep my foot elevated, and the other foot it could just do whatever it wanted. I mean, and even within a few weeks, I had to keep my foot. Several weeks later, I still had to keep my foot elevated, which sometimes kept me up at night, you know. But it was really, really not fun, you know. But I mean, but within days, I was able to start walking again. But I had to start walking with a boot, with an air boot, or what you saw so-called one of the casts on my left foot. I mean, I was able to get to the toilet, but I could only walk with crutches to the toilet, which is, if you're walking with crutches, it's very, very difficult and really not easy at all. But then I was able to start walking again within a few days, but I had to wear the boot, or otherwise my foot wouldn't recover properly. And also the next week I was able to walk, and on the 17th of October 2020, despite a bad foot, I was able to go out in memory of my late grandfather Edmund, luckily, who'd obviously died in February of 2020 of that year. And by November my foot was really improving, and some people were quite surprised, and they're saying, "I'm so glad you were able to get better from this very quickly." Although to one of my friends it was no surprise to her, but to me it was a surprise to me and some of my friends. And by the 10th of November of 2020, well, 10th to 11th of November 2020, I was no longer needing to use the boot cast. And I remembered very shortly, before I could ditch the boot cast, I was like, soon the boot cast gone, and I will have a whole new foot. I was right to think I'd ditched the boot cast, but wrong to think I'd have a whole new foot, unfortunately. Although my foot did get better, it got better, but not without complication, unfortunately. And still, even now, my foot can sometimes ache quite a bit as a result of the accident. So, in a way, I do have some form of permanent damage to my left foot because of how achy it can get at times. I mean, I'm walking up again, and I'm fully mobile once again and not needing a boot cast. But very sadly, I sometimes worry about falling over. That's what worries me more now than in the past. In the past, I wouldn't really have worried so much, but since I had the terrible fall and what the outcome of it, I worry about falling over. But one of my friends, if I were to say it to her, she'd say, "Oh, for goodness sakes, you are young and your bones knit well." But in the way, I would say, if anyone were to fracture their foot, it doesn't matter how old oneself is who has gone through the terrible ensuing ordeal. No matter how old they are, it's still incredibly painful. You know, other people think very differently to it, but obviously, in reality, and certainly in oneself's opinion, that's how they could view it. And but following my recovery, but obviously not without complications, as said before, I was right. I got a phone call from the fracture clinic, who rang me up via the telephone and was asking me many questions regarding my recovery. Very, very considerate of them. It was fracture clinic within the NHS who rang to see if everything was okay following my recovery, and obviously it had been several months since the accident had happened. And about 6 months later, in April of 2021, 6 months after the ordeal happened, I was rang to see if everything was okay, and why I was rang. It was all in order for the NHS to improve their healthcare service for their future in serving NHS patients who have had accidents or are seriously unwell with some form of terrible illness. You know. I mean, really, following the dreadful ordeal, my absolute hugest respects and respectability to the NHS, and also my big respect to the NHS and also Fracture Clinic who rang me up following the accident, and the NHS really helped me and looked after me well. Although I was unable to have visitors to see if I was okay, as no one could when I had the accident, or if anyone had an accident like I did back then when it happened. For all the NHS nurses who looked after me in the hospital following my accident, my hugest respects to them and the whole NHS. I, as a little English man, couldn't be more grateful or happier to have a wonderful NHS healthcare system in my wonderful home country of England, being located within the United Kingdom. And also thanks to all of you, whom back at the time of the ordeal were really wishing me well and a speedy recovery following my terrible accident. So thanks to all of you who were wishing me well following my dreadful ordeal. Thanks all indeed for that. Sorry about that. But yes. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. This is 1 year on since my dreadful accident when fracturing my metatarsal, which got better, but not without complication. Thanks all for wishing me a speedy recovery this time last year when it happened. The very bad accident happened, which I'm very, very hugely grateful of, profoundly. And but thanks all indeed for watching this video, and I shall certainly see you in the next video. Bye bye everybody, from Foxy.